Mao. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined this morning by Matt Moreno. Matt, you and I sat here after opening day. The Dodgers won. We were predicting a sweep, and yet here we are a couple days later. The Dodgers lose Saturday. They lose Sunday. It's a small sample size. We're not going to overreact, but what changed as far as, if anything, changed between Friday and this morning, in your estimation?
Oh, man. I mean, I guess a little bit of bad luck, right, with the win, but that did sort of work both ways on Sunday. Saturday's game, you're inches away from Freddie Freeman hitting a home run, and it's funny, we'll get into everything, but if you look at the opening series, like the Dodgers on one hand easily could have been swept, right, if they didn't put together their 2-out rally on opening day, and conversely, they very easily could have won 2 of 3 if Freddie Freeman had, another foot on his fly ball to center field. Maybe if Austin Barnes tags up, the game sort of changes. But I think it was a little bit offensively. It was a little bit of an extension from the Freeway Series, which we discussed. And really spring training as a whole, like the offense, the lineup didn't really seem like it's clicked yet. And so, on one hand, it was a little surprising, but on the other hand, it was kind of just what we've seen.
Yeah,
so far.
Offense is the big story. The Dodgers score 11 runs in 3 games. They net just 4 extra base hits. When I say they scored 11 runs, as you pointed out, 3 of those were unearned runs because, the Dodgers empty the bases on a Freddie Freeman dropped fly ball out to Chris Bryant. So shout out to Gavin Lux, by the way, from scoring from first on that one. Lots of guys would have just trotted around and made it to third base if they were lucky. But I believe Fabian Ardaya pointed out it was the lowest run total the Dodgers had in a series at Coors Field since 2018. And you look down the lineup. Max Muncy, 1 for 13 with 3 strikeouts. Bellinger, 2 for 11 with 3 Ks. Freeman, 2 for 12 with 3 Ks. Trey Turner, 3 for 13 with 3 Ks. Justin Turner, 3 for 13 with 4 Ks. And Mookie Betts, 3 for 14 with 5 Ks. The Dodgers had just 3 guys with an OPS, that's on base plus slugging, of over 550. Gavin Lux, Chris Taylor, and Austin Barnes. And that was at Coors Field, a place where the ball is supposed to fly, a place where there's huge outfields and the ball is supposed to drop everywhere you look. This was against Kyle Freeland, Herman Marquez, Senzatella, a bullpen that had the 5th worst ERA in baseball last season. And so I want to emphasize this. We are not jumping to crazy conclusions. We are not going to overreact. I would encourage the folks watching or listening to this to do the same. It's just 3 games. It's the beginning of a season. There's a reason they play 162. It means you don't have to worry too much about these. And by the way, they're 1-2. They're 1 game under 500. It's not like they're 0-5 or something like that. I'm curious from your perspective, Matt, as we go through those numbers, is there anything that feels concerning to you? I mean, some of these guys you look at, like, I'm not worried about Freddie Freeman going 2 for 12 with 3 strikeouts, but Mookie Betts, we talked about a guy who struggled in the spring. He was 3 for 14 in this series. Justin Turner getting up there in age, 3 for 13 with 4 strikeouts himself. Cody Bellinger continues to struggle. Max Muncy rehabbing from elbow injury, and he's 1 for 13. I mean, like, are any of those guys maybe on the more concerning level to you than others?
Not too much. I think for me, the biggest concern is the strikeouts in general, collectively, because like we've talked about in the past, specifically with Cody Bellinger, if you're at least putting the ball in play, it gives yourself a chance. But if you go up there and strike out, then you remove that possibility. Yeah. I agree with you. I think a lot of the players that you just rattled off will sort of correct themselves and kind of hit at the levels we expect. But for now, I think just the number of strikeouts for everybody, it's 3 and 4 strikeouts for everybody, not like 1 or 2. And then, okay, maybe they had bad luck in some of their other at-bats. They're not necessarily always putting the ball in play. And that's a problem that's different for this type of lineup. I don't know if you happen to have it off the top of your hand, and I probably should have grabbed it, but the walks too, I don't feel like there were a ton other than, Gavin Lux had some, I know, on opening day. But that would be a concern for me as well. And, I will say, with Bellinger, I still remain at least a little bit more optimistic. I know he did sort of start striking out, but hey, he's got his first couple hits and he is still, making more contact.
27 strikeouts for the Dodgers to 6 walks. So a little more than 4, basically 4.5 to 1 there. And even those 6 walks, I mean, Gavin Lux had 2 of them. Will Smith had 2 of them. Freeman and Bellinger had 1 apiece. So they aren't exactly spread out evenly throughout the group. So that's a concern. And again, 4 extra base hits. One of those is the home run to Austin Barnes. Chris Taylor had a pair of doubles and Mookie Betts had a double. And so that's again in a place like Coors Field where extra base hits should be easy to come by. There are gaps everywhere. There's plenty of room in front of outfielders, to the side of outfielders, over the heads of outfielders, and yet the Dodgers couldn't do anything there. And so again, I'll emphasize this. Dodger fans, please do not freak out. It's just 3 games. I know, I saw some people joking on Twitter. It's like, we just watched the Lakers go through everything they went through for an entire season. And so people are starting to project that. Like, we should have seen it coming with the Lakers. Now we're going to get way out ahead of it on the Dodgers. Cool your jets a little bit, okay? Let's just say there's a couple things different about how the Lakers do things versus how the Dodgers do things. There's reasons to be optimistic about the Dodgers. And let's go to the pitching, because if there is a reason to be optimistic about the Dodgers, many people thought hitting was going to be the strength. It was the weakness. Many people thought pitching was going to be the weakness, and it actually was the strength. They allowed 15 runs this weekend across 3 games, which doesn't sound great, but in a place like Coors Field, especially when you consider 5 of those were unearned. So 10 earned runs in 3 games in Coors Field. That's pretty good, especially when Clayton Kershaw doesn't start one of those games, and Julio Urias, as we're going to talk about, struggled as mightily as he did. But just going down the list, Walker Buehler was fine. We talked about that on Friday. 5 innings, 2 earned. Not his best performance, but he gets the job done. Tony Gonsolin on Saturday, I thought was fine. 3 innings, 1 earned run. It was a classic Gonsolin game. He allows 6 runners to reach base, only allows 1 run. And yet, I thought his stuff looked good. The velocity was up, touching like 95. The changeup looked good. So I was encouraged that. He was followed by Tyler Anderson, who's 4-inning pitch, 2 hits, 1 earned, 4 strikeouts. He was very good. I think already making a case for maybe he should be in the rotation. And then Sunday, though, Julio Urias was dreadful. 2 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 walks. Yes, he gets burned by some unearned runs in the first inning. Chris Taylor unable to make a catch, but then he comes back out in the following inning and basically allows the first 5 guys to reach base and can't get anybody out. Beyond that, I thought Mitch White was good. 3 2/3, 2 hits, 1 earned run. And then the bullpen was really, really solid. Blake Trinan, of course, makes a mistake. Craig Kimbrell, a little bit of a mixed bag. But all in all, I think as bad as the hitting was, there were reasons to be encouraged on the pitching side. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree a little bit. I think with Gonsolin, you would have liked to see him get, maybe 1 more inning of work. My concerns with him is it sort of seems to be the same issue where, yes, you can see his fastball has good life to it. His split changeup is working well. But one reason or another, he can't necessarily pitch, 5 innings in a start. And so at some point, like, we need to see that development again. Like, it was 1 start. It's the beginning of the season. We're coming off a shortened spring training. So you're not going to completely hold this against him. But similar to the Cody Bellinger thing where, you kind of look back over multiple seasons and you start to see trends. And so at what point, can we count on Gonsolin to, maybe take a step forward? Because I do feel, and he admitted himself that he felt like there were a few, I think he called them wasted pitches. And so that drove up his pitch count, which has been the issue for him in the past where, you certainly have the talent and the ability to stay on the mound for 4 or 5 innings, maybe the 6th here and there, but you're not getting there one reason or another. And sometimes defense can be a little sloppy behind you. Things happen. So as a pitcher, I believe you have to try to find a way to sort of mitigate those and get yourself out of jams sometimes, because there are going to be times where your defense does help you out.
Yeah, I would say that one thing on Gonsolin, there was a conversation between him and Roberts in the dugout, and it did feel like there was at least a moment where Gonsolin was sort of lobbying for the ability to stay in the game. And so, yes, his pitch count was high. The only thing I would push back is I think if we're talking a month to 2 months later into the season, I think he probably does come back out for the 4th, maybe even the 5th inning there. And yes, the pitch count is high. But, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with anything other than to say I think they're probably a little more cautious because of the setup as far as early in the season. And because if we're being honest, they had a guy like Tyler Anderson who they're looking at the schedule and saying we have a 3-game series in Colorado, then we have a day off, and then it's 2 games in Minnesota. It's like if this guy's going to get any opportunity to pitch, it's going to be today. So I won't disagree with that. But what were your thoughts on Urias? Because I think that was probably the biggest area for concern was his performance and kind of maybe even more than the box score, the way that it looked.
Yeah, it's tough to say because on one hand, you could argue like you sort of saw this coming because in the Freeway Series, his velocity was down. There was some hope that maybe it was an exhibition start. Spring training was coming to a close. So, he's kind of not necessarily going out there at, 100%.
Yeah.
But his velocity still was at the same at that start. And it's down, a couple ticks from his career average and last year's average.
Yeah.
And so, that's a little concerning if you want to find a silver lining again. And I know we sound like a broken record, like spring training was shortened.
Yeah.
Pitchers maybe aren't fully ramped up. We talked about it after opening day with Walker Buehler. He's somebody who kind of paces himself and sort of knows like, okay, I can get by with myself at 90% right now. Maybe that's the same thing with Julio. We'll have to see, obviously. I mean, he was hurt by defense too, so it's tough to kind of fully pin it on him.
Yeah.
But in the same light, like I just said with Gonsolin, like you do have to be able to make pitches.
Yeah, and he came back out, what was it, in the third inning, and it was like, yes, the unearned runs were earlier in the game, but then you come back out in a clean inning and allow the first 5 guys to reach base or something. And Fabian Ardaya, again, a credit to him on this. He pointed out Urias's average fastball velocity was 91.4 miles an hour. That was the lowest of any start in his entire career. He had just 4 whiffs on 57 pitches. So you and I talked about Buehler having just 7 whiffs on Friday. Urias has just 4 on 57 pitches on Sunday. And again, for context, Daniel Hudson had 5 in 1 inning on Friday. So not good sort of peripherals, background numbers there for the Dodgers. But again, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Rockies. As you said, there were a couple plays. If Austin Barnes makes the tag at home plate in game number 2, maybe that's a little bit of a different game. If Chris Taylor catches the ball that he's supposed to catch on Sunday, then maybe that game's a little bit different. There's a lot of sliding doors where things could have changed, but at the end of the day, they lose 2 out of 3. Maybe they're lucky to get 1. Maybe they were unlucky to only get 1. But it's just 1 series. They have an off day today on Monday, and then they'll go to Minnesota for a 2-game set and continue the season there. So hopefully the Dodgers get things on track. But again, the headline here, Dodgers disappoint against the Rockies. They lose 2 out of 3, and we'll have, like I said, head to Minnesota now. Let us know what you think below. Level of concern, 1 through 10. Offense, are you concerned? Pitching, are you concerned? Let us know in the comments below. That's Matt. My name is Jeff. We appreciate you joining us. As always, check out DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958 for the latest. And one last note, Wednesday at 5 p.m., Daniel and I will be going live. We've got an exciting opportunity. We'll be going live from Las Vegas, Blue Wire Studios, who we've partnered with as a podcast network. They've got a studio in the Wynn Hotel. Daniel and I will be live from there Wednesday at 5. So please join us. We'll be posting that after the fact as well. Enjoy the rest of your day. Again, Dodgers head to Minnesota on Tuesday to continue their season then.